Ik sta hier in Poptempel Paradiso bij London Calling. Het festival waar een heleboel bands een grote doorbraak hebben doorgemaakt. Editors heeft hier gespeeld. Florence The Machine, Kaiser Chiefs, vorig jaar Wetlag. En dit jaar is dé band waar iedereen het over heeft, The Last Dinner Party. The last time that you guys were in the Netherlands was at Motel Mozaique in Rotterdam. I believe you hadn't had a song out yet. You were kind of this mysterious band on the lineup. Probably one of your first gigs abroad, actually. A lot has changed ever since. So what kind of whirlwind of a year has this been for you?
It's been a whirlwind. That's the word. Yeah, we were just talking about that on the way here. That the last time we were here, we didn't have any songs out. And then the single came out, like, when was it, like a month after we played Rotterdam? Yeah, and it's just been like a very intense roller coaster since then. Very fun.
Yeah. What have the most surreal moments been ever since?
No real moments, only surreal moments.
I think Glastonbury Festival was probably the most surreal moment because it's been something that I've been wanting to do, just to attend my whole life, and so to get to play that with one single out, or was it two?
It was one.
I think it was just the one single out. Was absolutely crazy, and yeah, getting to travel the world.
You've done a lot of shows, I guess, before even having a single out. So just kind of to go back a little bit, even when we talk about you playing before the Stones at Hyde Park, like how do you land a gig like that if you don't even have a single out? Like how does that work?
Suspicious, isn't it? That festival that it was part of, British Summertime, do often do that. They have like quite small acts on opening the massive stage. But yeah, I mean, we didn't know that at the time. So it was very overwhelming, and we rocked up.
We'd just signed to a booking agent, and I think they threw our name in the mix for like a local up-and-coming band to open the stage. And then we somehow got it, and we got this phone call like, "Do you want to do that?" And we were like, "Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Like, yeah, I'm free that day."
Is really the song that I've listened to most this year, and the first time that I heard it, I just immediately had this vision, I guess, of just this huge stadium or like huge festival crowd singing along to it. And I was wondering, when you were writing it, did you feel like it could have that potential already?
I think when we got to the bit where we put in the da 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 da, that's the bit when I like when we put that in, I was like, oh, I can hear people singing.
I'm just wondering, from your perspective also, like, does it feel freeing to sing a sentence like "I will fuck you" like nothing matters?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's just what I felt at the time when I wrote it. And it's really, and I remember actually I wrote it and I was sort of like asking people for their opinions about it, and I was like, oh, this is maybe just a filler, like maybe I shouldn't say like "I'll fuck you," and then like, I decided to keep it. And then it's really actually nice that like audiences have responded so viscerally to it, and I feel like everyone is just a bit repressed and needs some more carnality in their lives, and I'm glad that this is the song that's doing it. It was about my boyfriend at the time, and I rarely write happy songs about being content in love, but at the time I really was, and I was just like, yeah, this is how I feel. And so it just kind of spilled out, sort of a mission statement of the ecstasy of life, I guess.
Can you just tell me a little bit about the story of how you met and just your student life at the time?
So Abby, Lizzie and Georgia all met at uni, and so did me and Rora, but like separately at a different uni. And I met Abby through a mutual friend, someone you went to school with. And
I asked him, who's the best guitarist you know? And he said, Emily Roberts.
I studied music for quite a while. I did masters in composition, everything. And it got to a point where I was like, there's so many things I could do. I don't know what to do. Maybe I shouldn't do music. I was like on the verge. And then I decided, like, why don't I play in bands? And just joined a load of bands. And then obviously met you guys, and just happened so quickly.
All our like freshers experience when we were 18, 19 was basically just going to gigs like every night, every week at the Windmill and the George and the Shacklewell. And it felt like even being in it, you know, it felt like a moment in time, like a moment in history. You know, like it's something. When we went to shows and we saw the same people and it was the same kind of community, you kind of had the feeling that like in 20 years people are going to be looking back on that time and being like, that was a kind of special epoch. And yeah, and we were just like, one day we'll be part of it as well.
So what was the moment that you actually formed as a band then?
I have a disposable camera picture on my wall of our first ever practice. That was just me and Georgia and Abby and another drummer in a really beat up little, it was in like an industrial estate in Peckham.
I think the first time we put a name on it was in the smoking area of a pub in East London where we were like, let's be called The Dinner Party. I'm going to say our first gig at the George Tavern in November of 2021 was when we really formed as a band, and that was
all us.
Take me back to your swimming pool, you lovely little foolish thinking I could have you naked in a trench coat. I'll see you on Sunday. I wanna hear them sing.
I actually read that also when you kind of first formed that you kind of formulated a manifesto for the band. What was actually in the manifesto?
We were really drunk. It was like a particularly big night out for me and Georgia, and we were talking about what's this band gonna be, what's it gonna look like, what are the words, and then we like went into a shop and like bought a little notebook and sat in the pub writing, and I spilt wine all over Georgia and cut my hand on the glass, and we were just like, yeah. And so it's kind of covered in blood and wine, and I can't remember a single word that was on it. Decadence was one. Oxblood.
Oxblood was on there, like as a word.
As a word, yeah.
Theatricality is also a huge part of the band, just in terms of the visuals. I mean, the way that you guys look on stage, the costumes, the performance itself. Like, did you kind of grow up with theater in that respect, or is it something you kind of gotten from the David Bowies of this world?
I did a lot of theatre as a child, so that kind of is maybe part of it. But I think all of us just love like dressing up, and all our influences are kind of, you know, theatrical performers like Bowie and Kate Bush and Queen, and like that was just something I think we've all been drawn to aesthetically.
In your music and your visuals, you're also kind of creating like your own world. You're really world building. So like, what is the actual world that you're creating, and could you just describe it very visually for me?
The name kind of sums it up, and that's kind of where we started with the name. It's like we were sitting in the smoking area being like, using all these words like decadent and theatrical and debaucherous and dastardly and like all of these quite, you know, silly, extravagant words. And we were like, oh, it would be like this big dinner party attended by Oscar Wilde and like Grace Jones and all these like influential people. So I think that the name, and then we added the last dinner party, so it's like this big kind of dinner party with all these extravagant guests at the end of the world or something. So I think that's kind of the world that we're creating, and it can be summed up just in the name itself. I think it's quite hard to sum it up in any other terms than that.
The magic of the name as well is that it has so much scope that it doesn't have to just stay in one aesthetic world. Like at the moment we're wearing like corsets and Renaissance aesthetic is kind of what we've been doing for the last year, but we definitely want to look around the table and try some other, expand the world, which we do in our shows, and I think in music videos to come, hopefully we'll experiment more.
I wanna take your picture me in bed under your Christmas